Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Thoughts Cafe. I'm your host, Alison Berger, and we are going to continue talking about the book Feel Good Productivity by Dr. Ali Abdaal. And just so you know, I'm not sponsored by the author, the publisher, the book, any of it. This is really just me telling you about a book that I think is out there to change a lot of people's lives, and I'm very excited about it. So today we're talking about sustain. 3 weeks ago, we spoke about energize. It's like what actually energizes us to get something done. And secondly, we spoke about unblock. So what are the things that were causing procrastination maybe with us, and how do we take care of those? Now, this week, we're going to take a look at, okay, I've started and all of a sudden I've slowed down, I've lost interest, whatever the case may be. And this section is called Sustain in the book. And basically, Ali Abdaal comes down to saying that there are three distinct reasons for us losing our impetus along the way. The first is conserve. And he speaks about just biologically how we are set up to conserve energy. So as we all know this, right? Our biggest problem is inertia. It's just getting started. And that is because, in our caveman days, our ancestors, food was scarce. So what you would do is you would eat, you wouldn't expend energy that wasn't necessary. I was reading another book this weekend. It's called The Comfort Crisis. And they actually spoke about how originally anthropologists thought that running was just like a party trick because cavemen wouldn't want to run because it spends too much energy. Right. So how do we conserve energy while still getting things done? So he mentions firstly just getting better at doing things, structuring things better, taking a look at where do I invest my time? And, us and social media, are we spending time being distracted by the death scroll? And so the one part of it is, where do I want to spend my energy? And this is what I really love about the way that he looks at it. He says, if you plan to spend half an hour on TikTok because that's your thing, go ahead and do it. But then, is it energizing you? Is it helping you conserve energy? What's the function of that? And so he says, firstly, do things, only spend energy where you want to. Secondly, watch out for distractions, unless they are positive distractions. And I really love it. He talks about how when he was studying, and he was quite disciplined and rigorous with his studies. He said that if he was studying, he would actually leave his dorm room door open. Goodness, that's quite a mouthful. So that if people wanted to just pop in and say hi while they were walking past his room, that was okay. He said because he found that gave him energy. So as much as it was a distraction, it was a productive distraction. He also then speaks about taking regular energizing breaks. And I think this is so important because we often work hard and we don't want to take a break. And then when we do take a break, what do? Netflix, doom scrolling. And what happens there is that stuff doesn't energize us. In fact, very often, a lot of that stuff detracts from our energy because, I'm watching something that is really disturbing on TV, or I'm reading news and that's upsetting. It's not energizing. So it's about getting really clever with the distractions you do allow to filter through. So that's conserve. And then carrying on the topic of how to energize yourself through rest, he speaks about recharging, and he has an acronym CALM for recharging. It is creative. Very often when we are creating or building, when we're doing it as a hobby, it actually forces us out of our ability to get stuck in our head and worry only about work. So he says the first thing is be creative. Then next, have autonomy. So whatever you're creating or you're building, make sure that you're the person who decides, what must this look like? What must the end product be able to do so that you feel that you've got what it takes to get this done? Next, he speaks about liberation. And I must admit, this is a big one for me. And that is that when we do something as a hobby, it must liberate us from the stresses. So it doesn't help. So, for example, I would say something like, for example, I'm going to read Dr. Ali's book because it is so relaxing. Well, yes, but actually, all that I sit and do is think, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make this actionable? How am I going to turn this into a YouTube chat? Who do I want to tell about this? Which of my clients need to know about that? Right? I'm not really liberated from work. I'm actually being sucked right back into it. In which case, the really mindless novel that I read over the weekend was probably better. Then the last one stands for M, and M stands for mellow. And this is an interesting lesson that I learned a long, long time ago. I was very fond of making and creating things like candles and earrings. So as a student, I decided, well, I'm going to make these and I'm going to sell them. And I started taking orders. And eventually, I really didn't enjoy either of those hobbies for no other reason that the moment that it wasn't mellow, the moment that it was had to do by a timeline and I had to think about pricing and offset areas, it was just another job. And so I do love that. I do love that about this concept of stick with mellow. It's got to be just for you. There must be no pressure. Oh, something I wanted to mention about creativity as well. He speaks about competence and he speaks about being able to grow your competence. So if you're going to do something under the calm process that isn't going to either make you feel like you are competent or that you are exploring competence and increasing competence, that actually might get quite negative. So for example, let's say that you want to do ballroom dancing. That is your calm activity. If you're going to get stuck with the steps and not be able to progress and get frustrated by it, it's no longer a calm activity. Then rather take up Zumba. You don't have a partner and no one's going to get angry with you if you don't do it perfectly well. He also speaks about, and I was not amazed at all by this, but he speaks about the power of the natural recharge and how being in nature actually improves one's frame of mind, one's energy levels. Now, what's really interesting about this is that there's been a lot of research done about it to the point where when I was reading the other book, The Comfort Crisis, it came up as well. And somewhere between these two books, because I can't remember exactly who mentioned the exact example, they found that even just adding a picture of a tree to your desk or putting it up on the wall in your office already has that ability to help you with your creativity, with your energy levels. You see, we don't need to walk for hours in nature, as lovely as it is. Just actually bringing the outside inside and representing nature in our environments is enough to do that for us already. Well, not that I'm going to stop walking around outside either, because that's a lot of fun. And then he has a very interesting distinction that he makes, and he talks about mindless breaks. And again, this is one of those places where he comes up with something that I think is so lovely and unique. We think productivity, we think someone's going to tell us perform, that's it. And he says, no, book that evening of Netflix binging, but make sure that the next evening you are doing some mindful breaks. That would be the walking in nature, practicing maybe an instrument, taking up painting. It's quite interesting. I think it's in his book that he speaks of Taylor Swift and who else? They all are artists. They're all actually painters. They paint scenery. And that is creative progress moving forward kind of activities that will refresh you versus mindless activities. But he says we are born to rest as well. So it doesn't help that we try and wake up and pack every single day, 16 hours back to back with productivity. That isn't viable either. Then the last point that he raises, and this was very nice to me. I really like the fact that he added this last and not first, is align. And he speaks about aligning to goals, visions, whatever your mission, whatever it is. Because you see, you're not going to get into that procrastination loop as readily if you actually believe in that thing that you are doing, if it is important to you. So, in one of his other YouTube videos, he speaks about the trident approach to alignment. The first sign of the trident, if you think of Greek mythology, the first sign of the trident is around the question, what do I want to be known for? What is it? What's the impact I want to make? And I know that this has been used before, but writing your own eulogy or asking someone, what would you like to have people write on your gravestone, really shows you what you want, what message you want to leave to the world when you are no longer there. And he says that's a great place to start deciding, right, if that's the end goal, where do I want to go? And then he breaks it into the second sign of this trident, and that is the short-term planning and and the medium-term planning. And what he speaks about there is, what would you like to be known for at the end of 12 months? So yes, you've got your eulogy, that's where you want to land up eventually, but what do you want to actually achieve in the next 12 months to move you in that general direction? And there again, we've got that progress mindset coming through. And then he actually, as the third part of the trident, he asks, what are your daily activities going to be? So it's not about a daily activity that ignores the future. It's not about a future activity that ignores what it is that you need to do today to actually action it. You know, when I used to have a team that I used to do goal setting with, one of the things that we would do is we would set a goal. We would define the success of the goal. So what would it look like if this goal was successful? And then after that, I'd say, okay, what milestones do we need to break it down into? And that's very much the vibe that I get here, is that what do we do daily to build up to milestones in order to get to a goal at the end of the year that will contribute to how I want to be seen one day when I pass away, that I know I've made an impact. And one of the things I really enjoy about the entire sustain process, so that is conserve, recharge, and align, is that Dr. Ali takes a really, really strong perspective on, do not criticize yourself. Do not blame yourself. Do not come down hard on yourself if something doesn't work. Because you see, and I loved it, he calls it the I'm just going to try harder principle. And he said the try harder principle actually doesn't work. We need to see why we didn't achieve it. But the way that he implements this is, he says, imagine that you are a piece of, that you're a robot or that you're something that's running on programming. He says, every time you want to tweak one of these, or every time you want to move forward on any part of anything that he mentions in the book, he says, treat it like an experiment. Try it, see if it works. If it works, yay. If it doesn't work, understand the data of why it didn't work, and then take it forward. And one of the examples I think that he mentioned at some point was he wanted to start a YouTube channel while he was still a doctor full-time in practice. And he said that one of the difficult things for him was getting an opportunity to record these YouTube videos. And he kept on going, oh, I'm procrastinating. But when he opened up his diary, he would be working, right, from 9 in the morning till 7 at night, coming home, then doing maintenance tasks, eating, sleeping, washing, cleaning the house. And then he had never time blocked this YouTube thing into his diary either. So not only did he not have time in his shift, but when he came home, he had to do the maintenance activities, and he had to go and sit down and think, right, where do I slot this in? Time block it in, And then even if he starts off doing less initially, he gets into the rhythm of doing it, and then he can expand on that. And so that was the last of these 3 sections. I really, really enjoyed this book and found it very valuable. What I really love about it is that as a coach, there was a lot of it that I already knew, but I found the packaging, the way that he brought it all together, very nice. And I really love that each section and each chapter has a bunch of these experiments that you can run and see, if I do this, does it work? If I do that, does it work? And so that you can try and find what's the optimal way to recode your life to have feel good productivity. As always, if you've enjoyed this, it's been lovely being here with you. This video will be posted onto YouTube and all of our social media channels. We will also be posting it in a blog format on our website, performforward.com. And then, as always, please leave comments, questions, concerns, queries on any of our social media channels, and we would be just too happy to revert to you there with a response. Or maybe if you have a suggestion, what you'd like to hear about. I believe our next topic is going to be resilience, so I'm really looking forward to that one in the coming weeks. But until we start off on resilience, I'll see you next time at the Performance Cafe.